Thank you for staying tuned to Udala Radio 104.7 FM. Of course, we thank the Break and Blitz team for the program they just brought you. And from there, we move to news update in Igbo language. Of course, Break and Blitz talked about people who encroach into people's land and those who sell and resell lands. One societal issue like that, a couple of things that they were able to throw up this very morning. Of course, we are hoping that maybe in the coming editions, we'll be able to get a lawyer who can provide solutions to some of the issues people raised this very morning. And from there, we are crossing over to the polity on Udala Radio 104.7 FM, where we get to talk about governance issues and politics. Basically, looking at the headlines that are reported in different newspapers this very morning. My name is Franklin Ebuka, and this very morning, I'm not alone. As usual, I'm with Tony Odisambeki, the in-house analyst. Good morning, Tony.
Good morning, Franklin Ebuka. Good morning, Nigerians. Good morning, the good people of Southeast. Good morning, Ndi Anambra. Good morning, Ndi Onitsha. Good morning, Ndi Osumo. Everyone under the reach of our voice. It's a beautiful Friday morning. We say thank God it's Friday. And today being the 23rd day in the month of January in the year 2026. It's a marvelous day for me. And it's a day for us to look around and then see how things have been panning. We thank God Almighty for His mercy, for His love, and for His kindness. If not that, I will not be here. But we know very well that we try as much as possible to tell you every side of the story, how to go beyond the surface. That's what we do here. And we'll keep doing that, believing that you always be there for us. You're welcome.
Okay, of course, like Tony said, it's the Friday edition of this very show, 23rd day of January 2026, and we're glad to have you. Of course, we can't forget to let you know that we are always live on our Facebook page, Udala Radio 104.7 FM. Just click dash to the page and see the video so that you'll be able to watch the proceedings live as it progresses. You can also go to our YouTube channel and on Instagram. We are live too on these platforms, Udala Radio 104.7 FM. Get interactive, and this very morning a lot is making headlines. Of course, we can't forget the fact that yesterday afternoon it broke in the media that the chief judge of River State has declined to set up a committee or a panel that is going to probe the impeachment proceedings or impeachment allegations leveled against the governor of River State. So the story is still there. Of course, if you look at the paper this morning, you will see the headlines there. Then Nigeria will, in the days to come, have ambassadors to US, UK, France, and Turkey, because President Bola Tinubu has approved the posting of ambassadors to these four countries. So by the time we get to the headlines, you will also get to know about this. Then US is raising fresh concerns about abduction of Christians in Nigeria, with a demand for stronger actions from the federal government. And now the ball is in the court of federal government whether they were going to do anything different. Because yesterday we got to report that those people who were abducted in Kajuru, local government area of Kaduna State, they were seen with the terrorists or the bandits, moving in the forest in a part of that very state. So if the military is going to do anything with that very information that came out yesterday, only time will tell. There are other things in the media. Makinde, the governor of Oyo State, Makinde, was at the presidential villa yesterday where he met with Mr. President. And since that very meeting, there have been speculations about the mission of the Oyo State governor to the presidency. In fact, he went in after the governor of the Plateau State, Mufton Caleb, came out. So a lot we have today. And if you go to X, the X handle of Ayode, he wrote something about that very visit, which we're going to bring to you by the time we begin analysis. So a whole lot is happening, and we are poised to bring you all this very thing. Then one that is going to excite some persons about prepaid meter, which federal government said that it has procured about 500,000 prepaid meters that are going to be installed free of charge to Nigerians. Because if you're going to buy a single phase meter now, for those who are in the southeast, for those who are in the southeast, of course, EDC is the one in charge, in as much as it has now created some subsidiary companies to be in charge of power distribution in different states in southeast. But if you are within this very area, you know that if you're going to procure a single phase prepaid meter, you have to cover out not less than 160,000 for you to do that. And government now says they have prepaid meters free of charge that should be installed at no cost to Nigerians. So would that happen? We'll get to know when we begin the conversation. Of course, the next will be for us to turn to the headlines and see what the papers are saying. Okay, so I won't forget to let you know that we have an interview with the Bishop of Sokoto Diocese, Bishop Hassan Kuka. Of course, it's a recorded interview. He was supposed to be live on the program today, but due to one thing or the other, we had to record it because Nandeba is not coming if you're in Gabanaria, Bubiliodo. So that is going to come while the program progresses. Let's look at the headlines this very morning. We'll begin with the headlines we have on Tribune newspaper. And the big story there says, Cardinal abduction, US wants Nigeria to strengthen protection of Christians. The story can be seen on page 3 of the Nigerian Tribune. It has some writers that say Southern Cardinal Christian leaders declare 2-day fasting over safe return of abducted worshippers. Southern Middle Belt Leaders Forum wants suspension, thorough investigation of police officials who denied abduction. And this one says, I am comfortable in PDP. Makinde meets with Tinubu at Villa. Then this one says, Tinubu seals deal with Shell to unlock job forex flow. Check page 6 of the Tribune newspaper. Oil drilling at Ogun Waterside. Olokola deep sea port set to take off. The story is on page 12. And of course, from what we gathered, this plan had been there for quite a while. And now Tinubu is now saying this project has to kick off because they want to decongest Lagos. And then from the health sector, this headline here, which is on page 12 for Tribune, says milk whole bread diets dramatically reduce cholera infections. Experts are the ones saying so. Nigeria's cashew export hit $400 million. I have to repeat this. Nigeria's cashew export hit $400 million. The story is on page 11. I had to repeat it because of people who are fond of, making mess of forestation. People who are fond of making mess of unintentional creation, either by the colonial masters or our forefathers. Now, I'm saying this because there's one place I know in Anambra State, I think somewhere in Idemili North. This community has an area that is well concentrated with cashew trees, and from what I gathered, colonial masters planted those cashew trees as a way of controlling erosion. But guess what? These cashew trees have become sort of income to many people in that very community. That during the season, people just go there to pluck cashew and make sales, make money, and what have you not. But guess what? Last time I was with a friend, that was in December, he was telling me how some community leaders have turned the cashew plantation into a source of firewood. What they don't do there is they go there, they fall the cashew trees, dismember them, pieces them, and sell as firewood. And you keep on asking yourself, community leaders who are supposed to be those who are going to preserve these things, that the ones making mess of all this very thing. And keep on wondering, how do we actually get to pick our leaders at this very community level? Then this one says, US says 35 million Nigerians risk hunger after global funding collapse. The story is on page 31. Above the non-plate, ambassadors, Tinubu post array to US, okay to France. Danki Gary to Turkey. The story is on page 27. Dalhatu is High Commissioner designate to UK. And the last story on the front page of Tribune says, Fubara, Chief Judge rejects a request to constitute impeachment panel. The story is on page 4 of the Tribune newspaper. Then over to Vanguard newspaper. The big story that says Cardinal abductions, US raises fresh concerns, tax FG on stronger action. The story is on page 5 of Vanguard. You can see the riders there, plenty of them. We are intensifying military operations in affected areas. FG says so. MBLF demands immediate rescue of victims. And this one says this is the 23rd attack on our community villagers. Quite interesting. 23rd attack on a village. And this one says rescue worshippers apprehend kidnappers. Speaker Abbas task security agencies. And another order says Sukapu condemns abduction, calls for urgent government action. Kaduna Christian leaders declare 2-day fasting for victims, safe return. And Governor Sani says, I'm personally monitoring operations. The under headline says, Ababio Natasha resumed legal battle as Senate President appeals. The story is on page 9. On the sports column, AFCON 2027, Super Eagles begin qualifying campaign September. Okay. Kudirat Abiola's murder. Supreme Court dismisses case against Major Al Mustafa. The story is on page 6. 2027, Saraki calls for credible polls, effective fight against graft. The story is on page 8. I'm comfortable in PDP, Makinde declares after meeting Tinubu. The story is on page 10. And NJC okays 14 lawyers as Federal High Court judges. This one says why I declined to constitute panel to prove Fubara. Rivers CJ, the story is on page 12. And the last story says 4 trillion naira debt. FG bows to pressure, pays 152 billion naira to contractors. These are the stories on the front page of Vanguard newspaper. And we cross over to the Guardian. Guardian has a lot of headlines, and one of them says ADC affirms Obi Usman as strong coalition members. The story is on page 3. CSO knocks National Assembly on prolonged recess, warns Electoral Act delay threatens 2027 poll. The story is on page 3. FG warns against consumer extortion, orders free installation of 500,000 meters. It's on page 7 of Guardian newspaper. How poor services, high cost, easy drug access, fuel addiction crisis. That's the big story on pages 4 and 5 of the Guardian newspaper. Rivers CJ declines to constitute pro panel against Fubara. The story is on page 29. Court proscribes industrial action as Wike sues FCTA workers. The story is on page 30. Government pledges food security as UN says 35 million Nigerians at hunger risk. The story is on page 5. And the last story, or rather, not the last one. Another headline here says FG reiterates religious freedom as report cites 72% of global Christian killings in Nigeria. That's staggering. 72% of global Christian killings in Nigeria. You can see that story on page 6 of the Guardian newspaper. Then this one says Christian leaders declare fasting prayer over casual abduction. You can see the story on page 30 of Guardian. Ekiti 2026 political parties to pay 60 million campaign advert fees. The story is on page 28. Anambra was 50 million, right? So Ekiti has put his own at 60 million. So if you're going to paste your posters and what have you not, you have to pay the government 60 million before you do that. Then over to the Punch newspaper, which is the last one we have this morning. The headline above the nameplate says Makinde rules out defection plans after meeting Tinubu. The story is on page 27. CJ declines to probe Fubara. Speaker heads to appeal court. The story is on page 27. U.S. demands action, or rather abductions. U.S. demands actions. FG vows to track bandits. The story is on page 2. Supreme Court declares Kudirat Abiola's murder case. Frees Al Mustafa. Okay, Supreme Court closes Kudirat Abiola's murder case. Frees Al Mustafa. The story is on page 28. And this one says Tinubu approves commercial oil drilling in Ogun. Check page 19. Attack scare. Police deploy officers to top Lagos schools. The story is on pages 4 and 5 of Punch newspaper. And with that, we conclude the headlines on this very newspapers will have this very morning, 4 of them. So next will be for us to look at the big stories and talk about them. Stay with us right back.
You're listening to The Poity. Get involved now.
Okay, so thank you for staying tuned to the radio 104.7 FM. You are listening to The Polity, and it's 9:32 a.m. My name is Franklin Lebekan with Tony Olisambeki. You have heard the headlines, and of course, we have to get into the analysis this very morning. And the big story is about what happened in River State, where River State CJ are talking about the Chief Judge, Stephen Amadi. He declined to set up the impeachment panel that is going to probe the allegations of gross misconduct leveled against Governor Simin Nalai Fubara. And CJ said, my hands are tied because there are 2 court orders stopping me from doing anything in respect to what River State House Assembly requested. And he cited those 2 court orders as saying that as it stands now, everything should be as it is. So Tony, from you, what the Chief Judge of River State did, how would you situate it in terms of politics, law, and morality?
We long say that it will come out to this. For those who have been following this program, we did discuss extensively about the processes of impeaching a governor. And we did say also that the escape routes for Fubara would be to institute a legal action against the impeachment, especially on the mode of service, if he was properly served or not. And with that, the chief judge, which for us, I've seen it, seems to be on his side, would have something to cite, would have something to reference as being reason why he could not constitute the 7-man panel. And when we did that, these things have not happened. And it seems that Fubara may be listening to us. He went and instituted an action. Ex parte order was procured or got or secured or given. Now the Chief Justice of River State, the Chief Judge rather of River State, Simeon Amadi, has something to also look at, and then said, my hands are tied, I'm handicapped. And in fact, in that letter, if you look at the letter, that letter is dated 20th of January, and he actually admonished them to obey rule of law. Yes, he addressed the letter to the speaker and admonished the house to obey rule of law, and he based his decision on such admonition on subsisting interim court injunctions from the River State High Court that restrain him from any action relating to impeachment. So it is important, and I read some piece where someone was saying that Simeon Amadi was appointed by Wike, so if at all that he should give loyalty, there's no way he will not give loyalty to Wike. We know very well that Wike is no more in power. And when we talk about the Simeon Shibuzo Amadi, I'm aware that he's from Emuha local government area of River State and has had a long career in the legal profession spanning over 4 decades. So I know he began his profession as a lawyer, and before he was appointed as a magistrate sometime around 1985, and progressively rose through the ranks, serving in various magisterial districts in Ahoda, Bua, Omoko, Elimbo, Boni, Okreka. These are some of the places he did his magisterial work. But I think by 1992, he became Chief Magistrate Grade 1. by 1992. Somebody who started 1985. So in sometime around 1998, he was acting chief registrar of the High Court of River State. So you see how he progressed. But I know he was first elevated to a High Court judge around 2000 after serving as a registrar of the High Court of River State, which began in 1998. By 2000, he became a High Court judge. And he continued to serve in that capacity until his appointment as Chief Judge on May 26, 2021. And he was sworn in as the 9th Chief Judge of River State by then Governor Nyesom Wike. And I think he succeeded Justice Adama Iyayi Lamekandra, if I get that name correct. So, remember, he is also the chairman of the River State Judicial Service Commission. So, I think you can see his background here. You can see his pedigree. You can see
the action we saw from him yesterday, declining to go on to set up the panel. Is it a matter of loyalty or a matter of legality? Because if you look at what he said, which I'm going to make reference to, he said he will only act on the request if the court orders were vacated.
Remember, this is the second time he has turned down the request by the River State House of Assembly to constitute an investigative panel. This is the second time. The first time he turned it down was he cited litigations and also cited the fact that the assembly was balkanized. He don't even know the one he was dealing with. There were litigations challenging the legitimacy of the legislators that made requests for him to set up a investigative panel, and also cited that the governor there was also another legislative house. So that was the reason he cited at that time, litigations and the balkanization. But now it's purely litigation. And if you look around, he has a legitimate reason not to constitute. So if he had gone to do what the assembly members asked him to do as a chief judge, more like a chief law officer of that very state, he would turn down the legitimate order from court and go and so, because if you look at some of these judges in River State, he assigned them to where they are. Even the judge that gave an order, he was the one that assigned that judge to that very division or district. And remember, matters relating to River State Assembly and impeachment saga, most times these things are done, except the one that has to do with external bodies, but it's strictly on impeachment. So River State High Court has jurisdiction, so his hands are really tight anyway. I remember, this is politics. Forget the legal gymnastics. This is politics. Frankly, was it sometime last 2 or 3 weeks? I did say here the escape route for Fubara would be go to State High Court and get an order stopping your impeachment if you don't want to be impeached. And that order will be what the chief judge will cite as reason for not constituting a panel. I gave this advice pro bono, not that I'm supporting Fubara, but we are looking at different ways. And we said, assembly members, for you to get this impeachment done, you must see how you overcome the obstacles you may have with the chief judge. And people say that the chief judge role is mandatory, his role is not something of loyalty, is mandatory. I said, yes, it's mandatory, but he is the one who is going to set up the panel. And without panel, how can you impeach somebody without panel?
So as it stands now, can it be said that it's like a lifeline to Fubara?
Pure lifeline.
So for the lawmakers, what is ahead of them? If they want to continue with the impeachment, what can they explore?
Remove the chief judge. And how can they remove the chief judge? The last time they attempted that, remember I said it the other day, what goes around comes around. When the chief judge stopped or failed to constitute a panel during impeachment 1.0, citing balkanization, citing litigations in different courts. They wrote charges against the chief judge and addressed to DSS to arrest and investigate the chief judge, Justice Chibuzo Simeon Amadi. The assembly, led by Martin Amehule, wrote petition against the chief judge before DSS with so many charges, incriminating charges, and they were asked, because if the DSS, if they had arrested the chief judge and possibly prosecute or try to prosecute him, there will be this confusion will come up, and they will be aiming for another person to succeed him. But one thing about judges is that the appointment is mostly based on seniority, because the next senior person, you know if the person will support, even if you try to remove the person, the occupant. We saw it during the time of Walter Onogen. We saw how Walter Onogen as Chief Justice of Nigeria was removed through ex parte order. Ex parte order. That was the most darkest day in our democratic journey under Buhari. Apart from where the judges, the homes were raided, the removal of Onogen is in our history book. Even when the Constitution has prescribed a process for removing the Chief Justice of Nigeria, they removed him through ex parte order. They went to Code of Conduct Tribunal, not even a regular court, Code of Conduct Tribunal. Remember the young man they used? That young man, the chairman of Code of Conduct Tribunal, is not even a judicial officer. Go to the Constitution. You look at those who are referred as judicial officer. A non-judicial officer gave an ex parte order. See, the truth is, that's just politics, and it happened in our own time. But in this case,
so would you say that the impeachment has failed? They still have some days. I mean, the lawmakers still have some days, because the chief judge has 14 days to constitute panel from the day he got communication from the House. And now, like we said last time, that the expert order is going to expire in 7 days. It can be renewed, or it might not be renewed. And somebody is saying that what is there for the lawmakers to explore is that, first of all, try to see if they can vacate the order. If they vacate the order, they now see how they can restart the process. And for you also talking about, going further than seeking to vacate the expert order. If they can also play the process of trying to see how they can remove the chief judge, and that could be an option too. Then for them, Tony, because I'm just looking at the legal point of view, if the lawmakers will want to vacate this very order, are they going to go back to the courts that issued the order, or now move to the higher court, which is the appeal court?
Now, I want to take on something before I answer your question. Yes, you say something about the order, the interim or the ex parte order, which is also interim in nature, having a lifespan of 7 days, which can also be renewed. Remember, as we have it, the order that was given can be renewed, and you cannot do anything that will preempt the suit, because the order pending the determination of substantive suit. So even if the order elapses, you have to come to court, but you can't come to court, go back to preempt anything or take any prejudicial action, because any action taken by the River State Assembly now will become prejudicial, and it's an aberration in our legal jurisprudence. Now, coming back to the second question you asked, the question you asked, the processes involved. Of course, you asked, can they go to the same court to vacate the order or proceed to a higher court? The only higher court in this case above River State High Court is appeal court. So you can't go to appeal court and ask appeal court, I was given an ex parte order, I want to vacate it. No, that's judicial rascality, judicial promiscuity. You can't just do that. An abuse of judicial process. So the court that gave the order, you have to go back to the court. The court says, order the litigant to put the defendant on motion. put him on notice, sorry. Put him on notice so that he will come forward before the court and show cause why some of the prayers made before this court cannot be granted.
Now, from what is playing now, people are trying to read meaning into it. And a few days ago, there was a TV interview that was aired where we saw a presidential aide, Daniel Buala, making a statement regarding the mind of the president on who is the leader of APC in River State. And Fubara was mentioned. And since then, people have been trying to read meaning into it, saying that it seemed like FCT Minister Yeson Wike has been thrown under the bus by the president. I don't know whether if we can. Okay, I think we have to. Let's explore that. But first of all, let's get to hear that very interview so that we hear exactly what was said and then see how we can situate it.
I agree with the point highlighted by the national chairman that in River State, Governor Fubara is the leader of APC party in River State. Now, you made mention of Wike. Wike is not a member of APC, so he can't speak for APC. I don't know whether I get the point. He may be the leader of PDP in River State because he was a former governor and they don't have a governor at the moment. But in APC, the leader of the party in River State is Governor Fubara. President believes in the rule of law and a rule-based practice, right? With respect to the party affairs, what the national chairman said is the position president sticks to because he respects party procedure. We have had people who complain that as a cabinet member, Wike enjoyed more benefit than anything. When you leave a treasury single account, if they are given the resources that he has and unfettered access, they will do more. So Wike has been adequately compensated. You see, the president believes in compensating people not at the expense of the interest of Nigeria. You have to understand President Bola Tinubu. He will give you latitude, he will give you privilege, but not at the expense of what is the right thing to do. Now, when you cross that line, nobody will tell you, you will know. So the matter between Wike and Fubara is already handled in the sense that you ask the question, who is the leader of the party? In this case, we say is the governor. For the impeachment procedure is consistent with the practice of law, right?
Okay.
And the requirement. And then the governor will deal with it. There have been orders of court that stopped the impeachment, right? The party is clear. Nobody should stop Fubara from governing the state. And that one should be clear to everybody, that the party sticks with the leaders of the party in their respective state. Okay. In fact, the president even respects the right of a state in which a PDP governor is a governor, and maybe somebody APC wants to disturb him. He believes that the governor should be allowed to govern the state.
Okay.
That is his disposition. That's his approach. I agree with the point highlighted by the national chairman.
Okay, so Tony, you heard that very statement by Daniel Buala. Does that in any way suggest that Mr. President is very comfortable to work with Fubara, and he's going to back him to ensure that he survives whatever ordeals that he has been passing through?
Daniel Buala, remember, currently he is Special Advisor to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu on policy communication. So you can also refer him as Advisor on Media and Policy Communication at the State House Abuja. And for over time, we know very well that he's one of those politicians that speak from both sides of their mouths. I'm not even aware if he got the consent of Mr. President before making the statement or making the disclosures he made. I don't know if he communicated the mind of Mr. President, but nevertheless, we'll take it as an official statement because he works for Mr. President. And anybody who works for Mr. President and makes a statement, if it is not refuted within time, it means that is the mind of the president. But I'm wondering if he got the consent of Mr. President before making the statement he made. So I can't just for now say that what Daniel Buala said is the mind of Mr. President or not until after some time, if what he said is not refuted. You remember, even the APC secretary, APC National Secretary, he was asked questions about this, and in his own statement credited to one Darlington, and saying that the man who made that very statement is not the spokesperson of APC in River State that he used to be, but is no more, and that person seems to be citing Fubara. And when he was asked why hasn't the party made a statement or official statement on this issue going on between Fubara and the State House of Assembly, he said that they will still make a statement. That they will still make a statement. That for the fact that they have not made a statement does not mean that they will not make. That they're going to make statements about it. But he says that the contending sides have every right to contend with whatever they're contending. So he's trying to be diplomatic about it. I'm talking about Felix Moka, the APC National Secretary. So he did not say anything that would mean that the party is against what Wike is doing. He didn't say that. He says that the person worked for Mr. President's emergence, and there's no doubt.
So does it mean that everybody's playing the politics? Let's see how time is going to take care of what's happening in River State.
That is what it is. And remember, even the APC National Chairman made a statement that looks as if he's siding Fubara, where he said that he's the leader of the party in that very state, and nobody will contend with that, and their governors should be allowed to work. Exactly what he said is what Buana is referencing, saying that he supports what the APC National Chairman said, that the governor should be allowed to work. But the APC National Secretary, Felix Moka, was a bit diplomatic. He was on the fence. He tried to be on the fence. So you must look at all these issues side by side. And going back, remember the order given by Justice Fiberosima will expire today. That order will expire today. So by the end of today, we'll see some development. The order was given, that was on 16th of January. An order given on 16th of January and has a lifespan of 7 days. It would naturally end by 23rd of January. And we know very well that the woman in view, she was elevated to a High Court judge in the year 2020. And the two suits before her, one filed by the governor, one filed by the deputy governor. So she granted two ex parte orders, one for the governor, one for the deputy governor, Professor Ngozi Odo. So these orders will expire today. But for the fact that these orders will expire today does not mean that once it expires, those people will go back and begin. No, there is a judicial action already on hand. So they have been asked to come forward and show cause why some prayers before the cause cannot be granted.
So we can say the next thing is on the day of the court sitting, they are expected to appear.
Exactly.
And now file their motion. All right. So Tony, let's quickly talk about this before we get to this commercial break. We can just talk about it in 2 minutes. For a long time, we talked about how Nigeria has been affected globally for not having ambassadors and high commissioners and what have you not. And after a long time, the president sent some names to the National Assembly. I think about 62 of them, though the names came in batches, and all of them were approved. And yesterday we learned that Mr. President has approved the posting of 4 of them, one to France, one to UK, one to US, and one to Turkey. And as it stands now, somebody who had been Nigeria's eyes in South Korea was recalled and is going to be sent to Turkey and to UK, sorry. But we have Okianko who are going to go to these very missions considered very important. How do you think this is going to affect Nigeria's international diplomatic relations?
Though it's coming late, we've said so many things about the damages that have been caused as a result of not having ambassadors and high commissioners that should represent us. Of course, we know their work, we know what they stand for, the image of the country in their host country. They speak for the country and engage in the high diplomatic relations and engagement with their host countries. We say that we've missed some of these things, and where they ought to have talked, or where they ought to have where they ought to have sought the engagement of the host country authorities or president, these things were never there. So now we are back to square one. Mr. President, of course, just like you said, had a pool of ambassador and high commissioner designates, and in his thoughts or his reasons, maybe he wants to be dispatching them one after the other, and he has started with four persons. And out of these 4 persons, he has started with, some of their names are somehow known to us. Look at the ambassador designate, because the Ministry of Foreign Affairs have been mandated to communicate to the countries involved and then issue these people letters which they will have to present to their host countries, letter of credence, which must be immediately that letter is accepted, they become ambassador of the country to that. So we can simply call them ambassador designate at this point, but this time around they have a country attached to them. Ambassador designate to the United States, Colonel Latif Are. If you look at Colonel Latif Are, he was I think at a point a retired security expert and former director general of the Department of the State Service. It was at a point former Director General of DSS. I know he also served as National Security Advisor at a point and held leadership roles in military. So I don't know if it's going to bring the case of national security and intelligence experience to the UX. Why that is important is because the president wants to combine security and diplomatic relations together because of the relations we have with UX. Remember, it has to do with issue of security mainly and business, oil and gas. So Latif Are, probably he may come in that area, but how he's going to fare is left to be determined. And you also have other personalities. Time will not permit me, but most important thing I know is Latif Are is from Ogun State. So he has been in army or a security expert for over 3 years. So that's where he's coming from. I'm aware some of the things he actually did. But now let's look at Emmanuel Ayodeloke. Emmanuel Ayodeloke. I think he's from Oyo State. He's from Oyo State. I know very well that he's a distinguished career diplomat and former intelligence chief with over 3 decades in foreign affairs and national security. I know well that he studied economics and political science at a particular university, one of these universities in Atlanta, USA. I think Emory University, yes. So there was a time he served as a Director General of the National Intelligence Agency, NIA, from 2013 under Jonathan to 2017, overseeing foreign intelligence and covert operations. So he worked under President Jonathan and briefly under President Muhammadu Buhari. He left that very office in 2017. So in 2017, he was the one suspended amid controversy over $43 million discovery in an Ikoyi apartment allegedly linked to NIA funds for covert operations. Remember, he claimed the money was for national security, but first investigation, we are told that he was cleared of all allegations in 2023 after a 6-year legal process. So, Mr. President, no, he was one of those nominated in November as a non-career ambassador. Now, Ambassador Ayodeloke, the man we talked about, many of us felt that he shouldn't have been nominated, he ought to have cleared his name, is now ambassador designate to France. France is another home to Mr. President. It's the second home to Mr. President. So why Mr. President find Ayodeloke to be the one who is going to take charge of Nigerian foreign relations with France? There are so many things people are talking about that, but I won't join them to talk about that. So you want to talk about Aminu Muhammad Dahatu. This Aminu Muhammad Dahatu from Jigawa State. He's also a career diplomat, but I know he has extensive experience in international relations and bilateral diplomacy. So Dahatu, at a point, served as Nigeria's ambassador extraordinary and plenipotentiary to the Republic of Korea. That was from 2017 down to 2023. I know very well he presented credentials in September 2017 under President Muhammadu Buhari. So he's focused when he was ambassador extraordinary and plenipotentiary to the Republic of Korea. He focused on strengthening economic and cultural and political ties, trade agreements, cultural exchanges. But Mr. President nominated him as a non-career ambassador despite his career background. He has a career background because he had one time been Nigeria's ambassador to the Republic of Korea. But look at his own letter, non-career ambassador. I don't know if you understand that, Franklin. So it tells you a lot. He is from Jigawa State, and I have just said that. And I think the last person is Usman Saidu Nasumu Dankingare. It's not Jengogare. Dankingare. I'm aware the ambassador designate to Turkey, Republic of Turkey. He's from Kebbi State. And I know he's a politician and former governor. Many may not even know that. Many may not even know that. So that is the people the Mr. President has appointed. For now, 4 of them. 4 of them. But I know his time as governor, I think he first started with being deputy governor of Kebbi State, and then through some So he was elected governor of Kebbi around
So,
2007.
the last person you just mentioned, Dakin Gary, of course, I'll take my time to confirm this because I've gotten some report that his name has been dropped based on a reversal made last night. But as it stands now, because I've tried to verify from the official social media pages of Bayo Nanoga and some other presidential appointees, I have not been able to see that. So,
we'll wait for
if we,
that.
of course, we have to go for that. If we eventually get to confirm or get otherwise, of course, we're going to let you know. But for now, we have to go for this very commercial break. Once we return, we talk about insecurity, what the U.S. is saying again regarding the abductions in Kaduna State. And by then, we are going to bring an interview we had with Bishop Matthew Hassan Kuka. Stay with us, we'll be right back.
Udala Radio 104.7 FM. Seriously authentic.
Measles and rubella are deadly diseases. They spread fast, can cause blindness, brain damage, miscarriage, and sometimes death.
Every day, Nigerian children are at risk. But there is good news. Vaccines can protect your child. The Anambra State government will conduct a mass vaccination campaign for children 0 to 14 years from 4th to 15th February 2026 to protect children across the state from deadly diseases. Take your child 9 months to 14 years for the measles rubella vaccine today. Complete all routine immunization doses from birth. After the campaign, routine vaccination continues in all health facilities. Vaccines are safe, effective, and paid for by the government. Don't wait. Visit your nearest health facility or vaccination site. Leave no child behind. This message is brought to you by the Anambra State government and partners.
Udala Radio 104.7 FM. Seriously authentic.
You're listening to The Polity. Get involved now.
Okay, thank you for staying tuned to the Radio 104.7 FM. It's 4 minutes past 10 a.m. and you're listening to The Polity. My name is Franklin Ebukanda with Tony Zambeki. We've been looking at developments in The Polity and, of course, the issue of the approval to send some ambassadors to some countries. We've talked about that now and what's playing out in River State. Now, let's talk about insecurity because the recent abductions in Kaduna State, they've been getting attention, and this time around, U.S. has raised their fresh concerns and asked federal government to do or take stronger action. Of course, there's a U.S. team in Nigeria now, led by one Alison Huta or thereabout. They came into Nigeria because they want to do further studies and do further engagement on counter-terrorism, how they're going to collaborate with Nigeria. And when she was making her speech yesterday, she said that it gives a concern that there are fresh abductions in Kaduna State. This time around, it's targeted at, should I say, churches. And they are asking that Nigerian government should intensify effort to safeguard Christian communities due to the abduction of 174 worshippers in Kaduna State. We know that that abduction, of course, renewed concerns about how safe people are in this very country. So, Tony, this time around that the U.S. is raising concern, what does that signify?
It signifies doubts on what they were told. The lobbyists had made good of the work they were asked to do. They went on to use instrumentality of different contacts. They met the congressmen and women, different house committees in the United States of America, trying to put it to everyone that cares to know that Nigeria government does not sanction persecution of Christians and is not involved. He has been doing so much to curb such narration that Christians are not persecuted in Nigeria. I'm not that the Christians are not persecuted, that there is no such, that Muslims and Christians are being killed alike. The lobbyists did their work. But facts on ground speak otherwise. Facts on ground. Remember, there are some commentators like Sofreno Mercury, even Dade Buala, and another person I can't remember his name. They had said that IPOB had paid lobbyists in US to paint the image of Nigeria black. I think Femi Fani-Kayode. These three persons had taken it to some places, to some quarters, that IPOB paid lobbyists, that this time around Nigerian government has outgone or has outclassed IPOB. IPOB paid. They have to, but then I made a thorough search to know if IPOB paid any lobbyist organization. I cannot find any verifiable data. I did extensive research. I have to make calls. I have to, go to different ministries of justice, ministries of state. I try as much as possible to reach out to them to find out. No credible evidence. No credible evidence. And when they say they paid to lobbyists, they could not name the lobbyists IPOB paid to, because the ones they paid to, we know them. The name is there. So let's see, maybe for some political narration or trying to be politically correct to justify why such amount was paid. I don't know. If IPOB has paid such amount, why wouldn't the government pay such amount twice to counter the narrative, if the case be? But just like I said, I did extensive research on my own to find out if that was the case, but I could not find any tangible evidence relating to that. So what that means is that the facts are now speaking for themselves. Ipsa res lic. It is there. It is there. What happened in Kajuru? It started with denial. After denial, admittance. Now, the U.S. ambassador to Nigeria, he was in this. I think he was in the State House. He was there. For him to be there in person, for him to make such comment, it tells you that Oblozife Ugolota Tonono Konrad Anante. For that, it means not what the cola or bitter cola. The way it sounds, if it's being chewed, is not the way the taste is.
Tony, I think let's bring in that very interview we had with Bishop Matthew Hassan Kuka, because the interview was basically on the insecurity we have in the country, where we try to ask him what he thinks is the reason behind the festering of insecurity, especially the killings we have seen and the abductions. Of course, that interview was an extensive one. It was for about 56 minutes, but of course we had to get some extracts for today.
And remember, we are going to still bring him here, because the interview it clashed with his program. So we are still going to bring Martin Bishop Hassan Kuka, the Bishop of Sokoto Diocese. We know how vocal he is when it comes to issues, but remember the bashing Nigerians gave him when he said that Christians are not, but he came back to repented the whole thing.
Maybe that version might not come up to debate next, because by next week all that extra for that interview we're going to let them, because that question came up and he tried to explain what he did and some other thing. But for now, let's begin with that question about why insecurity in Nigeria has been festering. So you're going to hear from Most Reverend Matthew Hassan Kuka, the Bishop of Catholic Diocese of Sokoto.
First of all, I want to thank you very much for having me, and I really appreciate the work you do, and I ask Almighty God to bless you. If you look at what is driving the senseless killings, we have only come to a point in which we can now see the killings. But we should have, if we developed a sharper radar, we should have seen most of all this coming up much longer than now. The distortions in the Nigerian landscape, the inability of the state to manage effectively and efficiently the resources that our country possesses in huge quantum, in huge numbers, So this structural design of a system that produces corruption but also produces so much inefficiency left unattended to is what has brought us to where we are now, to the point that even the killers have developed a sense of righteousness by saying, well, they are doing this because the country has ignored them. So I think at the heart of the killings and the abductions, tragic as they are, will be for us to have the courage to accept that at another level, those who govern Nigeria have also, to a great extent, been guilty of these charges of abducting this particular time the resources of state. Because I've always argued that actually it is the Nigerian state that should be in the dock in terms of what the things it has left undone. So these killings and these abductions are also evidence of the moral, the collapse of the moral fabric of our society. Otherwise, I mean, these are not things you hear about even in our neighboring countries, not to talk of other parts of the world. So the question all of us should ask ourselves, although it's convenient for us to point at government, is how did we get to this point? And what really did we contribute by doing or not doing X, Y, or Z? But this is where we find ourselves as Nigerians. There will be different efforts made to find solutions, but I don't think the solution is for us to focus only on government, because the killers and the murderers are among us.
With all these senseless killings, is life still sacred in Nigeria?
Life is sacred, but like a tree that is planted, unless it is well nurtured. There are certain things in our culture, and you must ask yourselves, we must ask ourselves, why, for example, is it possible for 40 people, for 50 people, for 100 people to die, or to be killed, or to be murdered, or to be burnt to death in churches or in mosques or wherever? And in Nigeria, life continues basically in the same way. It cannot be right that all we do is to blame government. It cannot be right that traffic doesn't stop, that things of such humongous dimensions occur, and we just go on as if. So the truth of the matter is that we may not be innocent, and that there's something about our own culture that may have gotten. It has more or less, we have been caught up by certain distortions in our culture and cultural practices. Up till today, there are people, parts of our societies that are supposed to be children of lesser gods, whether we call them Musu, whether we call them we're killing twins, we are unable to deal with autistic children, we are unable to handle the vulnerable, we are unable to handle the issue of the rights of people with disabilities and so on. So, built into our cultures, or refined culture, so to say, is our inability to resolve the fact that all of us are in the image and likeness of God, and that no matter what our conditions may be, social status may be, God doesn't do photocopies. But the social environment around which we live has thrown up all kinds of contradictions. So we're finding ourselves behaving as if some people are more important than others, and we use gender, we use social systems, we use culture to exclude one another. So if you ask, is life, of course life is sacred because life is given by God. But not everybody believes that life is given by God, because many of us have assumed that we have a right to take life and nothing will happen. So the sacredness of life is directly related to our readiness and willingness to treat each and every one as if they are ourselves or our brothers and our sisters.
Do you think the current government of Nigeria has failed in its constitutional responsibility to protect lives and property?
Well, absolutely. I mean, we will not be making this noise. We don't need to look anywhere for evidence. The killings you talk about, the abductions you talk about, the fact that these things are happening and nothing seems to be the case, and that we're involved in a culture of appeasement, is a very serious and severe indictment on the government. Because again, political science 101, the only reason why we have a government is for it to be able to protect us. And so far, over the years, the Nigerian government has shown its inability to really and truly take this responsibility very seriously. That's why we've been hemorrhaging over time. So for me, it's not even a question of this government or that government. It's that we must ask ourselves systematically. We've always found that it's difficult to point at a government that Nigerians can get nostalgic about. But clearly, the situation of the moment is an indictment on Nigeria, is an indictment on those who lead us, because we have the resources, we obviously have the manpower, and we ought not to be where we are today.
So, what do you think we are getting wrong in the fight against insecurity, and what can be done to tame the monster?
But I don't know. If I knew, we probably would find the answer. But there are things that have become quite preposterous. First of all, only yesterday, let me put it that way, metaphorically, it was a case of these children being abducted in Papri, and everybody was, we are all up in arms and so on. Suddenly that has receded. Now we have 177 or 76 people abducted. These are adults in a church or in churches. And the question to ask yourself is, how do you move 3 people, 5 people, 6 people, 10 people? How do you move them into a place that that they cannot be found? It's just it's incredible. In the case of Papiri, we were being told that these children were well fed. They came out not looking like as if they just come back from some kind of a break. It is unacceptable, and it is reprehensible. It is condemnable in the harshest of words that anybody can find. That somehow this culture of appeasement simply means it's as if people are doing a bit of trade by barter. You just carry people, you come back, you are paid off. So for me, as I said, it is very difficult to know how anybody can find an explanation for this beyond the fact that the government is squarely and fairly responsible for this, because you don't find any sense of moral repulsion sufficient enough to say this cannot happen again. So we have a lot of money, and so you pick people and you bring more money, you pick people and you bring more money. So it is becoming farcical. If it weren't that it involves human beings, it will be considered farcical, but it isn't. Again, we have to come back and ask a very simple question: where in the world can this kind of thing happen? Why is it that Nigeria is this incredible scene of immorality and the scene of such an inhuman crime that is totally unacceptable?
You have frequently spoken on the need for a whole-of society, in quote, approach to insecurity. In practical terms, how can Nigerian citizens protect themselves when they feel the government has failed in its primary duty to protect lives?
Well, if we do well to protect ourselves, but really, the fact that government has a duty to protect us doesn't mean that we have nothing to do to protect ourselves. But it is like a family, the head of a family saying, all my children, my wife and my children, everybody figure out how to protect yourself or how to defend yourself. You'll end up with chaos. So a government that abandons or outsources this kind of responsibility runs the risk of not having citizens. It will have individuals in society, but it will have a very deep and an ugly society, because essentially the whole of society approach cannot be an excuse, because it simply means that everybody has equal responsibility. That's not the case. There are 2 very important philosophers whose thinking has shaped the way the world sees the whole question of security. If you look at the United States of America, one of the very early amendments to their constitution was on the whole question of what they call the right to bear arms, in which case citizens had a right, and up till today, the gun culture is dominant in the fabric of American life and American politics. But there was a scholar called John Locke who proposed this whole idea that the rights of the individual must be very well protected, and that individuals have some kind of a contact between themselves and the state. Now, his thinking shaped a lot of the thinking of America. Thomas Rousseau, on the other hand, believed that, look, what we needed was to have the state monopolize violence. And if you entrusted the monopoly of violence to the state, then the state can become, as he says, the guardian, so to say. And that means that the state monopolizes violence on behalf of the citizens. In our own case here, the state monopolizes violence, but it has found itself unable or unwilling to defend its citizens. So it will be a danger if all of us now begin to figure out how to defend ourselves, because the challenge will be what will happen when all this passes away, or what we may probably have is a multiplication of violence in different shapes and different sizes. So there's no substitute for the government of Nigeria taking full responsibility, and we must continue to hold their feet to the fire that what they are doing is not yet enough to protect us.
Are you in support of the U.S. strike in Sokoto as part of a collaborative effort to fight insecurity?
It's not a question of whether one is in support. Every reasonable or sensible person must be in support of everything and anything that needs to be done to bring this ugly situation to an end. So the issue of the strike in Sokoto State, not Sokoto itself, still remains largely controversial, because I don't know whether you have seen, but I'm still to see the pictures of where the strike took place. We don't know what really happened. We've not seen pictures of the bandits that were killed or whatever. So this lack of clarity also doesn't help matters. But by God, whatever it is that we need to do, whoever it is that has the means, this should have ended like yesterday. So it's not a question of any sane human being who is a Nigerian and proud of this country and proud of themselves must be happy about anything that is being done, to end this ugly situation.
Right. What's your thought on the state of things in the country? Is the present government led by President Bola Tinubu headed in the right direction?
I don't know direction to where. In the final analysis, I think, my mother used to say that everybody's tears are falling on their chest. Essentially, I think our concern should be looking at our own personal condition, not in a selfish manner, but asking ourselves, are we better today than we were yesterday? Most likely people will say no. But I think also that we must also think very clearly about the things that are a priority to us. And for me, as long as the government has not been able to properly get its hands around the issues of security, there's no amount of economic policy, there's no amount of any other thing that you can do that is not tied to this insecurity. So unless and until this is brought to an end, everything else that government does is very closely tied to the state of security or lack of it in Nigeria. So for me, you can be headed in the right direction if we have not been able to very aggressively bring this to an end. And I've been saying it for the last few years that we need some kind of a calendar or a timeline. Okay, if I were the president, I would say to the people in charge of security, between now and January, between now and March, between now and June, we've given you all you require. We need to see, if we don't see an end to this, you disband and then you let everybody can go back home. We try and find a different team. But there is clearly an almost total lack of political will in terms of getting this whole thing behind us, because it's not possible that these criminals or these characters have a power structure that is insurmountable. The question is that, again, perhaps their supporters, their sponsors are still going around in Agbada and in suits, and they're still around. Whether the halls of power are out of it, we don't know, but we have a severely compromised security situation.
You're listening to The Polity. Get involved now.
From the commercial city of Onitsha comes Udala Radio 104.7 FM, the voice of the region, where authentic news and entertainment meet. Udala Radio 104.7 FM, seriously authentic.
Quality bread, Wendy's bread, for your family breakfast. Wendy's bread, Abachi chande tozialo. Wendy's bread, Mama Papa they like Wendy's bread, Chicha nenyandu. Wendy's bread, even children they like Wendy's bread, Wendy's bread, and in town. Wendy's bread, you get it better tasty, we go sweet your belly. Wendy's bread, Wendy's your bachi choma. Wendy's bread,
Wendy's bread, tasty bread. You can contact us on our official address, 2nd Business Park, Enugu Road, GRA, beside Onitsha, Anambra State. We also have another branch at St. Michael Plaza at Tani Road. Also contact us on 070-1149-1571. Wendy's bread, your tasty bread.
Wendy's bread.
When you think of roofing, think of strength. When you think of durability, think of beauty. And when you think of all three combined, think Best Aluminium MFG Limited. At Best Aluminium, we don't just manufacture roofing sheets. We create protection, comfort, and style for your home and business. Whether you're building from scratch or repairing an old roof, we have exactly what you need. Our products include stone-coated roofing sheets, aluminum roofing sheets, and colored roofing sheets. But that's not all. We also offer residential and commercial roofing services, roof repairs, gutters, emergency roofing services, and even durable cookwares that bring quality to your kitchen. Visit us today at 30/32 Anyika Street, Awada Obosi, Anambra State, or call us right now on 0806 416 2374 or 0706 059 6203.
Nepa don take light again. Wetin I fit do? Every day fuel don cost. How person wan take survive? I go cook soup today, tomorrow e go sour.
My people, why you dey stress when the sun dey your head for free? Switch to the affordable solar energy wey Wascana Solar Company dey give small businesses and homes across Naija, whether na barbing salon o, restaurant o, supermarket o, or your 2 or 3 bedroom apartment. Wascana Solar get correct durable solar wey go serve you wella. No more NEPA wahala, no more expensive fuel. Let the sun power your business and home for free. And no forget o, solar fans, solar lights, everything dey available. Call Wascana Solar now for 0806 374 2374. I repeat am, 0806 374 2374, or send email to wascanasolar@gmail.com. Visit their office near Olive Relief after Marble Hill School Junction, Okpanam Road, Asaba, or Classic Line Zone 2, A4 Electrical Dealers International Market, Obosi. Wascana Solar, Okumube.
ọrịa arụbara na ọrịa osinikuku akpọrọ rubella bụ ọrịa ogbu na nwayọ. Ha bụ ndị nke na-agbasa ngwa ngwa ma bụrụ nke na-akpatara mmadụ ịkpụ isi, imebi ụbụrụ isi, atụ ọpụọ, ọtụtụ mgbe na-abụ ọnwụ.
Ụbọchị ọbụla nwatakịrị ụmụafọ ala Naịjirịa nọ n'ihe egwu mana enwere ozi ọma, ọgwụ mgbochi ga-echekwaba nwa gị. Gọọmenti Anambra Steeti bụ ndị na-achịkọba ọrụ ịgba ọgwụ mgbochi malite n'ụmụaka ndị a mụrụ ọhụrụ wee ruo n'afọ 14 nke ga-amalite site n'abalị 4 ruo abalị 15 nke ọnwa February afọ 2026 iji wee chekwaba ụmụaka nọ n'ime steeti a pụọ na ya bụ ọrịa ogbu na nwayọ. Kpọga ụmụaka gị malite n'ọnwa 9 wee ruo n'afọ 14 maka ịgbagha ọgwụ mgbochi nyere ọrịa arụbara na ọrịa osinikuku akpọrọ rubella tata. Gbaa ụmụaka gị ọgwụ mgbochi ndị a niile malite n'ụbọchị a mụrụ ka. Ọ bụ na agbachanya bụ ọgwụ mgbochi ndị a ga-agakwa n'ihu wee na-agba ya n'ụlọ nlekọta ahụike niile e nwere n'ime steeti a. Ọgwụ mgbochi a dị mma ma na-alụ ọrụ gwogwo. Ọ bụkwa nke a kwụrụ ụgwọ ya site n'aka gọọmenti. Nya bụ echenekwa ka agwa gị gaa n'ụlọ nlekọta ahụike ọbụla dị gị nso ma ọ bụ n'ebe a na-agbanya bụ ọgwụ mgbochi. Abụrapụkwana nwa gị n'akụkụ. Ozi a si n'aka gọọmenti Anambra Steeti na ndị ga ha na-ejikọtara aka n'ọrụ ịgba ọgwụ mgbochi.
Udala Radio 104.7 FM.
You're listening to The Polity. Get involved now.
Okay, thank you for staying tuned to Udala Radio 104.7 FM. It's 10:30 now, and you're listening to The Polity. So we quickly round up before we get to open the phone line. So Tony, you heard from the Bishop what he said about insecurity in Nigeria, and of course that yesterday we are trying to make reference to. Yesterday was the day a high delegation of U.S. officials arrived in Nigeria on a week-long diplomatic tour, which is aimed at reviewing counter-terrorism efforts and the protection of vulnerable religious groups across Africa, the Middle East, and Europe. So that means that these people are going to be in Nigeria for close to 1 week, so that they are going to review all these things. And yesterday, a meeting was held between that U.S. delegation with Nigeria. We know that Nigeria now has a United States-Nigeria Joint Working Group, which was created at the point of that visit that the NSA went to U.S. I'm talking about Nuhu Ribadu. And the meeting that had yesterday, it was Nuhu Ribadu who co-chaired that very meeting. And the person that led the delegation was U.S. Under Secretary of State for Political Affairs, Alison Hooker. And during that very meeting, I know Hooker made some statements, and she said that the mass abduction in Kaduna State underscored persistent security failures that the Nigerian government must urgently address. She added that strengthening religious freedom and security is going to further deepen bilateral relations between both countries in the area of trade, economic cooperation, health, and the counter-terrorism efforts, while also supporting the return of IDPs to their communities. So, Tony, you heard from Kuka, and that same yesterday, something in the media also came up. In as much as security sources have not spoken on that, but reports, one was captured by Punch, claimed that the abductors of the Kromin Wale worshippers were seen trekking with their victims between Ungwangwamu and the Maro communities, which are in Kaju local government area of Kaduna State. They said they were going through the forest routes, trying to move to their hideout. Tony.
We listened to Bishop Hassan Matthew Kilka, the Catholic Bishop of Sokoto 6, in his interview where he did say quite a lot of things, and then the interviewer tried to draw him to a point where Nigerians would want to hear from him. He said that the government takes every responsibility, but at first he was a bit cagey. He was trying to tell the public that the work or the fight against insecurity is solely everyone's business. So he was selectively candid, artfully vague, and circumspect to a point. He was circumspect to a point. So some may say that it was purely obfuscatory, but at the end or the tail of the interview, so he came out open and unveiled the fact that the primary responsibility of government is purely to protect lives and property, and there had never been that political will to get these things behind us. And some of these people who are doing this, according to him, he said they may be in Agbada suits in some places. Not that they may be, they are. Evidence, facts point to the fact that these people who are behind this insecurity, they are in ministries, parastatals, departments of government. They have been working hand in hand with these terrorists. So no doubt, and just like I said, I have not seen security or political will. The idea of political will to get this thing terminated. Let's take responsibility of the security in their own domain. One state first, the federal government comes in. That's the way it should be. For the fact that we've not been able to set up town police, local government police, and even state police, tells of the political handicap some people try to work on. But the point is, we have known the bishop as very vocal. He does not spare anyone, but these days he's being selectively candid. Just like I said earlier on, he's becoming circumspect to a point. You know why he has chosen to come out the way he came out at the end of the interview could be because of the lashes Nigerians have bashed him over his closeness to the government. But he has denied that. He has said that it is not what we think. But what happened in Kaduna State speaks volume. We saw Hooker and his team there in Nigeria, there's no doubt. And the meeting, we'll see how it will pan out. And then the meeting between the president and Makinde, I saw Identify releasing a statement saying that Makinde couldn't even meet this president alone. Why would he go with Caleb Muftwang of Plateau State? That Mr. President drew a line and told him he would always speak on official matters, on Oyo State official matters, no more, no less. That Mr. President at a point tried to also make everyone know that he has a support for Wike, but these things were speculation. And we know how close Ayodele Fayoche, former governor of Ekiti State and the vocal PDP critic and Wike's ally, we know how well he can make statements. So all these that, if you look at that very meeting, Mr. President did not meet Kele Muftwang and Makinde at the same time. He first met Kele Muftwang, and shortly after that, Makinde came on. So why did Fayoshe or those who attributed that he dragged Kele moved to one for the meeting, but when the president did not meet both of them at the same time. So Makinde told us that he's not defecting to APC, that he's comfortable in PDP. We know very well that there's no way they will not talk about their issue. Possibly those statements made by Makinde that Mr. President, after working for him in the last election, did not even allow his nominee to make the ministerial list. And at the same time, other issues he pointed out. But probably he had gone to Mr. President to clarify himself. There could be people who may have pointed this thing out to Mr. President and let him know. And he would ask those people to schedule a meeting between him and Mr. President so that he will clarify certain things. I guess what was seen everywhere in the media. So I guess he went there to clarify certain issues, not what this Fire was actually saying.
Because Makinde said that he went there to see the president on governance issues. So what those governance issues are, we do not know. But at this point, I will have to open the phone line so that we get to hear from you what you think about all we have brought to you this very morning. The phone lines are 0803-221-6973 or 0803-827-6694. Yes. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Franklin.
Yes, good morning. Your name?
Good morning, my chief speaker. Right Honorable Olisa.
You're welcome. It's good to have you.
The voice of Honorable Idris, Mayor Okutume JP, Okulola, Ochindo, Umueteneke, Audanod. Can I go on?
Yes, go on.
Let me first of all congratulate you, Tundo Lisambeki, because this shows that you know politics very well. You know, you preempted what will happen in the river, the chief judge issue with the legislative. He said it. Then you went as far as saying that maybe the chief judge was the person that advised Udala to go to court. He said it this way. And now it comes exactly that way. And he said you don't know these people are listening to us. I want to tell you, brotherly, many of these people listen to this program. And that's what makes this program what it is. So, as it stands now, I've said it before, Wike is losing ground. And whether this thing came from the presidency or not, I knew quite well that the president, from what that young man said, the president must join the queue. And I'm telling you, Wike is gradually losing ground on this issue. So, I want to advise Wike, in order not to kill his political career completely, let him go and play the Abuja. Even I can see he's now having problem in Abuja, going to court with the labor union. So, I want to also, this insecurity in this country, since many of Nigerians know that the people that are wearing that Gabada and so on and so forth, have that on it. Why not those people put eye on ground and throw people out? When they deal with them, so that insecurity in Nigeria will be solved and people will rest. Look at what the story they are telling us. Well, let me allow other people to come in. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Good morning.
Good morning, my Franklin.
Yeah, hello, good morning. Your name?
Good morning, my speaker, Tony Bede.
You're welcome. It's good to have you.
It is the voice of Honorable Iglesias Okoye from our ancient kingdom. My speaker, I heard all what you said concerning Wike and Pavara and the presidency and presidential advisor. You see, what is happening there is this. The president knows how to play politics. And forget on what Wike did that last time when he came back to River State, going around saying thank you, Thor. So the president knew very well that the masses of the River State are on the side of Pavara. No doubt about this. Only a few people that benefit from Wike is following Wike. So for President Tinubu to get more votes to vote on River State, he must align himself to Para. He said to do so, he may lose the River State. Because I listened from some River people what they do say. The weekend is dwindling. His popularity is going down. Yeah, he had all what his advisor to the president said that we can be settled. And we can made himself many enemies. And telling the truth. So when many enemies in the governance, in PDP is not there, Labour is not there. And the APC, they knew him as a troublemaker. So he think political tendency is going down. And this is how you quit like a fire. Thank you, my speaker. I'm done.
Okay, thank you. So, Tony, what is actually the value of money? Because Wike we're talking about now, I believe Wike is in UK because yesterday, his son Joaquin, earned his MSc degree in Management and Technology Change at the King's College in London. And guess what? Apart from his family, the governor of Anambra State was there with him. PDP, factional PDP BOT member, talking about Senator Mayo Huabunwa, he was there. Chief Dan Hobby was also there. They were all with Wike in UK to celebrate his son's graduation from college, where he earned a master's degree. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning to you.
Yes, good morning. Your name?
Yeah, my name is George, calling from my son.
Go on, George.
Yeah, in fact, I know that that the governor of Kaduna, governor. So, but at the same time, there's no military covering the commissioner of police because of that exactly denial. You see, we can't continue doing this thing that we are doing in the country. We can't continue. That something will happen. We deny that did not happen, that nobody died, and that is the way that they will have a community crisis. This is happening in every part of the country. Even in Southeast, even in South, it's in every part of the country that the incident will happen. We will cover it up. That is why something will happen and the people will say, be like saying only 2 people die. The other people go say, they reached 10, no. The airplane will come tell us, the past 20. Why are we continuing? This is why we are suffering in this country, because we lie on innocent blood. We lie on innocent blood head. And what are we saying that those people that died? Because sometimes in our side, our people always say, who's sure whether the people where they are not the sea road? Because nobody's sure. Nobody know where they're. Because we can't continue this instance. Because something will happen. Because I expected that by now, that the commissioner either resigning or Mr. President will order of the dismissal. Because we can't continue this thing. Let us have the information. Let us have what is going on in our country. You can't make us to become a refugee in our own country. Because you people are in the corner of power. We the citizens will have to become a refugee in our own country. What is going on? Because when this news came out, they denied. Nothing like that happened. And nobody lost his life. They don't kidnap anybody. The same people now are not coming out to tell us that we make sure. May God forgive us in this country, but we are in a business, not in something that will just come in out every morning to be chatting. Because when you are chatting, there's no change.
All right.
There's a crime. A very big crime. Thank you very much.
Thank you, George, for joining us. Good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Yes.
Good morning, Mr. Speaker. She's doing this advocate.
You're welcome.
Good morning, it's me, Jide Jordan. I am calling from Mumbai.
Go on, Jide.
I have said it and I don't care what anybody says about it. For instability to stop in Nigeria, US must have a military base here in Nigeria. That's the only solution to stop this insecurity. If not, these bandits, these terrorists will continue to have the full day in this country called Nigeria. Because everybody in politics, everybody in the hierarchy, in the north, all the allies in the north, they all know about it. For this thing to stop, the US must have a military base here in Nigeria. That's why I take this morning. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Jide. Good morning. Okay, try again. 0803 221 6973 or 0803 827 6694. Good morning.
Hello?
Yes.
Good
Hello.
morning.
Hello, good
morning,
morning.
the crew members, Dr. Lisambeke and Franklin. My name is Johnny No. I am a holder of HND Electrical based on yesterday, but I wouldn't go there to that yesterday. I'm equally a minister. Based on Reverend Coker, for me, the Bible says, John 17:17, sanctify yourself by thy word is true. He has not come out to say what he has done, what he has done before, that there was no Christian genocide. And people are still under his word. I think that he has been disappointing. Then in the issue of security, what government was supposed to do, it is not easy for you to carry 100 and something persons. It is not easy. I have been in a place where armed robbers came into an upstairs and we dispersed them, say, okay, one of us will go. But for that, we dispersed them until the police came in by throwing stones and the rest. Then the youth members should be arrested. The commissioner of police or the DPO of the arrested. The chief of that place should be arrested. And some of those members that have been caught are complacent to it. These things are things that you just imagine it that 100 and something person, one person cannot go out. How many of the bandits or the terrorists came into to take, and this is what we're marching on a very far distance? I think these things are drama that the world cannot really see Nigeria as a super world. I mean, giant of Africa. Nigeria is not the giant of Africa. We are just compensating ourselves. I want to equally appreciate your analysis, especially with Jambeke. In fact, you are good. You are good. And I will appreciate you, and really, since I discovered this station, I have been following it every day. Today, I'm just lucky to have you. Thank you very much.
All right. Okay. Thank you. Let me also add, not actually to hold brief for Bishop. Like I said, that interview was a 56 minutes interview, and we just had a part. So the other part, we talk about his response to the issue regarding what he said about Christian genocide, whether it's happening or not. So by next week, of course, we're going to play that very one. By the time you must have heard his own side of the story, then he can now objectively, make your point. Thank you. Hello, good morning.
Wonderful morning to you, Franklin and Dr. Tony Zambeki. Good morning.
You're welcome.
Honorable Dike, calling from Onitsha.
Go on.
Going straight to the point here. Nigerians, we welcome the U.S. delegation to Nigeria. We welcome them wholeheartedly. Whether it is IPOB that is driving people to influence decisions, or the screwdriver or the Christian state, the good thing is that the Republican under Donald Trump is a government that really wants to get this right in the whole world. Venezuelans are jubilating today, trusting there is peace in the Middle Belt. A board of peace has been inaugurated, which has been 5 presidents of the world is among those board of peace, with Donald Trump as the chairman. So I think all these speculations, not even speculations, New York Times talking about the screwdriver seller, all this stuff is just to undermine the good work being done by Senator Ted Cruz. Today is being debated. The options that we're in right now is whether Nigeria should be divided. And if you should ask me, I think the best option, instead of wasting millions of dollars on missiles and ballistic missiles, the best option is to divide Nigeria. Having seen that the Christians are being abducted here and there, and you see the likes of men who are highly respected also sticking with both sides of their mouth. The Bishop Kuka is a man that we respect so much. And recently after the appointment by the past, under Muhammad Buhari was just saying, standing for the masses. But today, he's speaking a lot of deep grammars which contradict what he has said in the time past. I wish that you men could go back and get the clip of videos of his comments under Muhammad Buhari. You can now judge for yourself. So all we are trying to say is that the U.S. delegation is welcome here. They should make their own let's not forget, you are aware that the ambassador to Nigeria to US have been removed, and someone who is more credible has been brought in, because that man has been feeding the US with wrong information. Okay, so the Trump Republicans, all these senators, we thumbs up for them, and Nigerians welcome them and urge them to do a thorough findings. Why Nigerian army cannot find these bandits? Why the DSS cannot get intelligence to fight these bandits? Let them get to the root of the matter, and possibly, like the debating today, if Nigeria should be divided, to me, that should be the best option instead of wasting money. I think the economy is getting harder on the world. They should do the right thing at the right time. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, DK. But of course, let me say this because I like facts. Talking about, you said the U.S. ambassador to Nigeria has been recalled because he's been feeding U.S. with wrong information. The right information is that U.S. at a point in time recalled many of the envoys across the world. It's not just Nigeria. Many of them were recalled. So that is what I know about this. So Nigeria wasn't the only place that was affected. And let's just quickly go to our Facebook page to acknowledge some of the posts we have there before we get to wrap up this conversation from Tony. Comrade Henry Elu is okay. He wrote from Showlight, and he said this is not the very first time we will hear an announcement of free prepaid meter, which will never be released to the public till the period of the free issuing expires. They will start selling it again. EDC is the headquarters of corruption in Nigeria. Federal government releasing free prepaid meters from August 1st, but EDC never distributed it till they started buying it, which I paid over 150,000 naira for each single phase meter. Okay, let me speak on this quickly. The fact is that when these very prepaid meters come in, it is shared. I think government is trying to bring in about 3.5 million prepaid meters through World Bank assisted program, and this time around they brought in 500,000. They are going to be shared among all the discos. And the last one that was shared, EDC got some portion. I'm aware that some persons got their meter installed free of charge. Man, you know what it means in Nigeria. In Oka, some persons, they were just on their own, a blue meter, but they now say, I didn't apply for meter. I'm from Nanya. But the thing is that now, imagine how these things they happen. All right. Then Dr. Mrs. Molebra from Ore says that the Bible says that when the righteous rule, the people rejoice, and Nigerians today rejoice not groaning. Governance is about putting the people first. Our children are frustrated and depressed across the land, which now affects their mind and education. I had to cut that short. Also, Francis Amagan Namani from Enugu, Amagun said, okay, thank you for following. And the question says that people like the bishop are needles that have lost their thread. Come to think of it, with due respect to the bishop as a man of God, I will advise that at this point he should come out clean and clear and join politics and forget about pulpit. I think it will be better for him than hiding under the guise of being a man of God. And then Kevin C, thank you for flowing. Monty, or rather Monty, all the way from Ihuabarain and Kan East Local Government area of Enugu State, thank you for following. Joseph Onyuko, thank you for watching from Iyowadepe. Godson Mwabreze Sunday, thank you for watching from Umoji. Christian Omunakwe, he said insecurity can only be solved in Nigeria with economic balance between urban areas and rural areas in the country. And Francis also added that the National Assembly should expedite action on the Electoral Amendment Act in order to get things right in preparation for 2027 general elections. And he added that the incessant attacks and killings of innocent people in some parts of the country is unarguably raising serious concerns. He adds President Donald Trump should not relent in his resolve to assist Nigeria in the fight against banditry and terrorism in the country. And he says a stitching time saves nine. So Tony, we have to wrap up. Not to preempt the other part of this very interview, but in that interview, Luka talked about, that statement he made, which the claim came that he was trying to play down Christian genocide. He spoke about it. So you're going to hear it in the second part of this interview. Then the question about how Nigeria was called CPC. He said he was the first person that wrote to Donald Trump in his first tenure to do that. But Trump did not do anything. That was why, at this second instance, he didn't feel interested in that whole thing. And and a whole lot. Maybe by next week, you're going to hear from him. So, Tony, we have to wrap up today's conversation. So, how do you summarize?
We are going to continue to follow the developments in River State and watch out for a lot that would come out as the litigations, the battleground seems to be fully agog. And then, just like we keep correcting certain impressions, and we keep saying this, the meeting or the recall by the US of the ambassadors in different countries is not related to feeding anybody lies. Of course, we are quick to point that, which is very correct. Not just Nigeria, there are so many other countries where they made a recall. That was around 16th of January. And aside that, Mr. President will also follow up a number of political dynamics as we approach 2027. We expect by next month INEC to release the official timetable for 2027 general election. And when we talk about the prepaid, most times we expect things to be the way they should be, but they go ordinarily to what we may not even imagine. These prepaid meters procured with the World Bank assistance loan, you may think it will be distributed free. It is difficult. It's just like saying Bell is free in Nigeria. These are one of rhetorics that are stupendously laced with lies. And we'll keep shutting down some of these things. And we'll keep doing our work. We thank God for everything. We have to really call it a day.
Okay, so just to add, during that very recall, which was done by Donald Trump, 29 countries were affected. So it wasn't just Nigeria. And of course, like I said, next week we're going to bring you that part of the interview we had with Bishop Matthew Hassan Kuka. And thank you for listening. On that same note, I also thank Ben Water for facilitating the interview. We'll see you next week. But before that, next week, of course, we have other programs lined up for you today. So you have to stick around. Stay tuned to Udala Radio 104.7 FM. Thank you, Tony. My name is Franklin Ebuka. Good morning.
From the commercial city of Onitsha comes Udala Radio 104.7 FM, the voice of the region, where authentic news and entertainment meet. Udala Radio 104.7 FM. Seriously authentic.
Measles and rubella na deadly diseases. Dem dey spread fast. They fit cause blindness.